to be honest, we've been quite lucky in recent years with teams like West Brom and Villa, being in the Premiership, and Crystal Palace maintaining their Premiership status for yet another season.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get to the away games sort of from Cardiff. So yeah, we try and get to a few each season.
I can't say too much. I'm a Tottenham fan, so there we go.
And I was just beginning to like you.
I know. Well, every silver lining has a cloud. I mean, you're also involved in running a thing called Only Kids Allowed and Only Boys Allowed.
Yeah, so Only Boys Allowed are actually celebrating their 5th birthday this year.
Wow.
They were originally set up for a one-off concert. In Wales, we have an Eisteddfod every year, which is sort of a music, literary, poetry sort of competition where people from all across Wales meet up to sort of compete in various disciplines, as well as just sort of being a celebration of the arts, really. And the Eisteddfod in Ebervale, Only Men Aloud were asked to sort of be part of the opening concert. And then Tim, our musical director, came up with the idea of getting local boys from the South Wales valleys involved in that concert. So we originally set it up just as a one-off project where we had rehearsals with about 200 boys for a few weeks and got them ready to perform at the concert. And then it went so well, and we saw how much the boys enjoyed it. We thought, well, we can't really stop now. So 5 years later, they've recorded an album. They finished 3rd on Britain's Got Talent. They've most recently launched a cruise ship down in Southampton last weekend, which I know they enjoyed. And yeah, they're doing some fantastic things. So again, and we help run that, so we are really proud of everything they do.
Yeah. So what's the difference between boys and kids? Is there an age difference, or is it?
Yeah, so the kids is for 9 to 13-year-olds, and that's boys and girls. And we audition all over Wales, and we pick 100 children. We recently auditioned, and we had our first rehearsal actually this weekend with the successful 100. So they'll be in the choir now for a couple of years, doing various performances. Last year, we took the kids' choir to South Africa for a performance with Bryn Terfel, and the year before we took them to St Petersburg for a performance with the Mariinsky Orchestra and Theatre, which was fantastic for the kids. And yeah, this year we've got some as yet unnamed exciting plans for them too.
Oh, good. That's great, isn't it? I mean, it's great. I think it's great getting children into something, and once you get them in there, if it goes well. I've always mentioned it about theatre. I went as a young lad. I think I went to the London Palladium probably when I was about 6 years of age, and I fell in love with theatre. And if you have a good experience when you're young, it stays with you for the rest of your life.
Exactly, that's completely right. And I think there's been too many people, perhaps. I remember we did a workshop with some members of staff at one of the schools that we went to, and they'd been told to stand at the back of their school choir and mime because they were, because they couldn't sing because they were terrible. And they were told that when they were 10 or 11, and then at the age of sort of 40-something now, they were still. You could tell that had still sort of knocked them so much at that early age. Then, when we were sort of doing a session with the teachers on sort of how we work with the boys and the kids that we work with, you could tell that, that was still sort of with them, and a big hurdle for them to get over, really, and to start singing. And because it's it's a very sort of exposed thing to do, to stand up and sing in front of someone. If it's not something, you're used to. I'm fortunate enough that I did it from a young age, so I never really had, that sort of big fear or having to start doing it. But I think then the older you get, to do it for the first time, goodness me, I think it'd be terrifying.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I must admit, I was a young lad. I was a fairly decent singer when I was at school, very young, sort of up till about 12, 13. And then my voice broke, and I always laugh and joke, said I never had it fixed. It is awful, I promise you. You really don't want me anywhere near me singing. I sing with the radio, and my wife tells me off. It is not good. And I couldn't sing on stage. Now I've done it before when I was a young boy, and it was a great experience. You get a great buzz from it, which you sing. You said you've been to South Africa with them, or they'd been to South Africa.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you've not worked and you'd like to work?
We've sort of. With Only Men Aloud, we've been to America a few times. We've had the sort of good fortune to go to America a couple of times. We went to Chicago last summer. We were in Iowa for a few concerts. So we've seen sort of that side of America. It would be lovely to get over to the West Coast, maybe to see sort of California.
That's a lovely part of the world, I can assure you. Lovely part of the world. I've been there a few times myself. So how did the Americans take to you? Because did they go, oh, wow, these Brits can sing, you know, or...
because one thing that sort of perhaps the TV show Glee and things proved was the sort of the popularity of the show choir out in America. And I guess that was probably, when we were on Last Choir Standing, that was almost the closest comparison, I guess, with us, was that sort of all singing, all dancing, you know, large choir. And, you know, we're slightly different now in that there's only 8 of us, so we don't tend to do those sort of large dancey numbers. But, yeah, you know, and what I also found amazing was the number of sort of Welsh links in America. We performed actually at the Welsh Festival of North America, which is where I think they get about 4,000 or 5,000 people over a couple of days, you know, sort of making Welsh love spoons, listening to lectures about Welsh history, things like that. And these are people that have never lived in Wales, but their ancestors, you know, moved to America hundreds of years ago, and they're still very proud of their Welsh heritage. So, yeah, that was a real eye-opener, I guess. And, yeah, it was just fantastic to meet all those people, and then similarly people that aren't Welsh who just seem, you know, hopefully like what we do. We got a really positive response.
Well, that's great. I mean, I didn't realise there's a lot of Welsh out there. I know I go out to America quite regularly, and I know there's lots of Irish out there, but I've never really sort of twigged on the Welsh thing, but obviously that must have happened as well, you know.
Yeah, it's enough, and I think, again, I may be wrong and I may be rewriting history, but going back to the mining sort of times, I think there was a large Welsh mining community that moved out to sort of areas of America at that time, and sort of, you know, worked out there and settled out there. And obviously then future generations sort of still look back at their Welsh heritage. But yeah, certainly at the North American Festival of Wales there were a lot of so I might have got a slightly warped view on my trip, but
well,
we certainly met a lot of people with Welsh heritage out there.
That's not a bad thing, and if you're not proud of, you know, being British, Irish, Scottish, whatever, you should be, you know, whatever, coming from Britain you should be. I mean, the other thing is, talking about being proud, you took part in the opening ceremony of the London 2012. We did, yeah. There's sort of, you know, we get the opportunity to do lots of amazing things, but every now and then there's just sort of that one thing where you think, you know, wow, this sort of really is a global, you know, event, and it was watched by billions. You know, I think there was almost like, I'm probably making it up and making it sound brilliant, but I'll say there was 1 billion or 2 people watching it live across the world. That might be wrong, but you were possibly right. I mean, I know the Super Bowl has something like 600 million people watching it, so the Olympics, you could well be right, you know. And I had the pleasure of going up myself, and it was a great atmosphere, wasn't it? It was very... London is a very strange place, but it was very surreal for those sort of month and a half that the Olympics were on.
Yeah, we were actually up, we had to go up for the week before the opening ceremony, because obviously such was the pressure on them to, you know, really deliver something special. We had 3 or 4 dress rehearsals during the week, and because we were singing as the torch was lit, which was obviously sort of under massive secrecy, they didn't want to get out who was lighting the torch, you know, what was being done. Our rehearsals were often at sort of midnight every night, because I think there was fears of people flying helicopters over to see what was going on and bits like that. So yeah, I felt a bit like James Bond for a week, really, being sort of snuck into a stadium at midnight to do some top secret rehearsals and things, and we couldn't even tell our families. You know, we sort of had to sign an agreement and things at the start that we wouldn't tell anyone, you know, what was happening in it, what was doing. So I actually sent my family a message about an hour or 2 before we were due to go on, saying, you know, I told you I was in London recording an album. Well, I wasn't actually. I was up here rehearsing for the opening of the Olympic ceremony. So yeah, it was quite a nice surprise to deliver.
Yeah, I think it is. And then you also took part in Don Black's 75th anniversary concert at the Royal Albert Hall. Now, there's a great singer, there's a great songwriter, if ever there was one.
Yeah, so it was a really amazing night, actually. It's sort of, often with songwriters, I think they can not get the credit they deserve. It's often, the person that sings the song sort of gets all the credit. But then you sit down and you sort of look at all these songs that various people have written, and you think, I didn't know he wrote that, and he wrote that. And
it's true. I had Albert Hammond on with me a couple of weeks ago. He's written songs that have been recorded, and he sold an incredible 360 million copies.
Almost as many as only Men Aloud.
That's well, only about 60 million short where he is now, isn't he? So, yeah, I mean that is the songwriters don't get the credit. Talking about songs, what would you say is your favourite song?
Ooh.
One you do and one you like yourself, away from Only Men Aloud.
Well, I've got, for all my sort of sporting interests and things like that, I've got my guilty pleasure, and I blame my mum entirely for this, is that I like a bit of Barry Manilow. From a young age, she was always playing the cassettes in the car, things like that. So I was singing along from the age of 3 or 4, and then when I went to high school and assumed everyone would like Barry Manilow, I realised I was sort of
uncool.
I was on my own, and I've always played the piano from a young age as well, so I can relate to a piano sort of singer. So yeah, I did have to sort of temper my love of Barry Manilow for a few years in order to make friends in school. But now I'm sort of singing and performing again. I'm free to say that yes, I am a fan of Low. And if I had to pick a favourite song, we sing One Voice. We sing an arrangement of One Voice, obviously a famous Barry Manilow classic, which I enjoy performing for obvious reasons. But he's written so many great songs, as I'm sure you well know.
I do know a few of his songs. I can't say I'm a huge fan, but everybody to their own. I don't knock any type of music. Anybody he's been around for 30, 40 plus years. Don't knock it. You'd never,
at least.
and I've been at the top of the game for that length of time. Anybody who's done that kind of length of time, they must. He certainly has talent. He's not my taste, but then everybody to their own.
Answered very diplomatically.
Well, I mean, I like all sorts of music. I must admit, I cover everything from. I love classical music, and I love some of the current stuff. I'm not a huge lover of all the current stuff, but I do like some of the current stuff.
Yeah.
People like Sam Smith, George Ezra, James Bay, all those sort of people I quite
great
enjoy.
Songs, really, aren't they? Sort of well-written songs.
Exactly, they're great songs rather than manufactured songs. That's the thing I do not like particularly, and don't get me off on that one. Is there a song you and the band would like to record but have not recorded yet or performed?
That's a good question. I think talking to Sam Smith, I do like a lot of sort of the songs he's writing, sort of something in that style, sort of a really modern pop song. I sort of grew up performing musical theatre as well myself, so we get to sing We Doy from Miss Saigon, Anthem from Chess. Just trying to think, there's a couple of sort of big numbers from Les Miserables that I would enjoy to sing, although in the group it's an odd one. It's sort of, we all come from a different musical background, really. There's boys who are classically trained, who love singing the opera and the sort of more classical things. There's the boys who sort of have been musically theatre trained, who enjoy singing all the stuff from the shows. So, yeah, I think within the group, everyone's probably got a different idea of what they'd like to sing. But for me, I don't think we could ever sing enough Barry Manilow. You don't?
Okay. Do you want to? I tell you what. As you're with me today, let's name check the rest of the boys, shall we?
Yeah. Okay. You put me on my toe. So you've got Win.
Yeah.
And you've got Dave 40. So we've got 2 Daves in the group. They sing in the top 10 apart. Mm-hmm. And then we've got David Marnie, the other David, and our newest member, Tom. Tom actually was in Only Boys Aloud when we first started it. Then he went off to music college in Guildford, where he's been studying for 3 years, and has actually now sort of graduated to effectively join the men. So having been one of the boys, he's now one of the men, and he joined us for this album and the tour.
So he's gone from Boys to Men. That's a great name for a group, isn't it? No, man.
Slightly different. But he's singing second tenor, him and Dave. Then you've got myself and Craig, who sings baritone. And then you've got